Hey guys, this is Salty Joe from Bermuda, and you're listening to the No Name Podcast with Lefty the Great and that idiot JQ.
Nitro is the glory. Welcome to the No Name RC podcast with your host tonight, Keenan White, aka Lefty the Great, and if you are unlucky, the Finnish village idiot, JQ. This is the RC podcast with no name, but plenty of content. So sit back, relax, and get ready for some serious bench racing.
Yo, so what's up, guys? Welcome to the No Name RC podcast. This is episode 12, Legends of RC series. We've got Mark Pavidis on later. We're going to do a great interview with him. We got a new segment. It's called the Setup segment. We're actually going to have Jeff Keeton and JQ on for that. Well, actually, I have Jeff with me now. What's up, Jeff? How are you?
I am doing fan-freaking-tastic on this rainy day out here in Florida.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful here in the DR. It's probably about 75 and just great. Sun's out. It's a little cloudy.
Nice.
But
it's pouring.
I decided to have you on for my intro because you was at the SIC race this week. But before we get into that, I just want to say some shout outs to some people first. I want to say first off, thank you to and shout out to all my JQ Racing family, because without those guys, we couldn't make this happen. Also, shout out to Brent Densford, Beach RC, JQ Racing USA, Jerome Chambon, our JQ Racing Europe distributor, Model Tune in UK, as well as I'd like to shout out to my buddy Clint, who done that awesome skateboard deck for me that we're doing as a giveaway. And we got some other cool little car stands coming out from my buddy Josh Boehm. He actually does a lot of 3D printing, and he made some awesome No Name RC podcast car stands that I'll have up later. I'll put when I put the pictures up, I'll put the link to his Facebook on that. So, yeah, SIC, dude. Hey, your first big race with the car, and first I want to say shout out to Dave and Racetime Entertainment because the show was awesome. Typical Racetime Entertainment races, man. Lots of lights, lots of podiums, lots of banners. It looked really good. Bobby done a really great job on the track too. I really did enjoy the track, even though I didn't race on it.
The track was a lot of fun.
Well,
yeah, the track was a lot of fun. It wasn't super difficult, but easy to get around, and before the bumps, of course. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And you're right, Dave. The atmosphere Dave puts on at those races is unmatched. There's no race anywhere in the country that can compete with him, and the environment, the atmosphere, and the hype, and everything that he puts together for that thing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to PMB. In April, Max Mort's coming over for that, and we're gonna have a big JQ squad up there, and we're gonna set up awesome pits and have a blast.
It's gonna be neat. Before I was kind of thinking that PMB was gonna be like maybe a smaller turnout this year, just because all the races. There's so many races and everything's blending together. But I think over the next couple months, talking to Dave at SIC and the stuff that he has planned, he's got some new stuff planned for that race. He's bringing back some old features, the old PMB, like old school PMB features for some of the obstacles for the track, and the ideas that they were talking about as far as the track itself goes. I think with the hype and what they got planned, who knows? It could be one of the biggest PMBs this year, because they're definitely going all out. He is going to go all out for this race, and like you said, Max is coming, so the international crowd is starting to pop up, and I know that they're trying to get some other international drivers to show up, and I think PMB is going to be one of the best.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. So SIC, man, you had the JQ team went up there. The walkers decided to come late. I'm glad they did.
Me too.
You made all of your A mains. We had probably about 10 guys there. Philip and Zach from, I want to say they're from Tennessee or Kentucky. I'm not sure. Matt drove all the way down from, excuse me. Matt drove all the way down from Canada.
I know. I couldn't believe that, man. That was awesome.
Yeah.
He was a cool dude too. I like getting to know him. He was a good guy.
He's coming to PMB. He told me so.
Is he? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Who else did we have there? We had Millington came there and went on a bump fest from C main to the A main, and finished third. So that's really good. Shout out to Millington. Now we got to get him driving some nitro. I don't know why he had my nitro car there. He should have drove it. Joe C went up there. We had a pretty formidable. Bobby was driving. I mean, Bobby put in a good run at the end. His last qualifier, he did pretty good. He got it together, and then
he just needs more time. Like Bobby all day Friday, man. That dude just sat around and wrenched on this shit, and I mean, he just didn't get a ton of practice, and he just, I don't know. He needs to work on practice and get time on the car, and I think it'll come around really nice.
Yeah, and he's busy also because he has to deal with the track and stuff like that.
Yeah,
well.
I mean, he's slammed from the time he shows up to the time he leaves. I mean, he is slammed.
Who else did we have there that I'm missing? I think that's about it. Yeah, but
I know there was a lot of interest. I mean, there was a lot of guys that were wanting to look at switching over to JQ. So I think this year's going to be good. I'm excited. I think the JQ brand's really going to take off.
Yeah, and you won $100 from Joseph.
I know. You know what? That out of everything, that was just icing on the cake. Like to know that little fuckery had to pay me $100. I'm like, I drank so good the other night. It was awesome.
And I'm really super happy about Trent, man. He drove really well. I believe he got second in nitro and second in e-buggy, and he drove a very mature race. He didn't do anything stupid. He was consistent all weekend, and it's funny because he went to this race last year this time, and it was just them two, and I think Mike Hill went, and just Mike Hill, and then Mike Walker and Trent. And Trent was in second, and he broke while in second and chasing down first. So some good redemption. I've watched Trent over the last year get better. He's been putting in work. They practice a lot. Now I think he will just start to get a little bit more speed, and it's no doubt that he's going to be on the top step sometime this year. At one of these races.
I agree with what you said. His driving has really matured. Like he's not going out and having to be the fastest car on the track. He's going out and he's really focusing on that consistency and just turning laps and trying to not wreck. And you're right. I think that the actual speed itself will come, but where he's heading right now, he is on pace to do really well this year.
Yeah, and it was pretty amazing. And people might say, "Oh, these guys are just going to talk about JQ cars," but we're going to talk about the pro finals. But we actually had 4 JQ cars in the e-buggy A mains. That's pretty impressive. And we could have had.
I think so.
We could have had 3 nitro cars in the open main, but Zach just missed the bump up to that cockmunch from Texas, Shane Barrier, who's my good buddy. He did a good job of bumping up too. He was like in the C and he bumped up to the A. So good job, Shane. Yeah. And you, dude, you made over 40 e-buggy, over 40 nitro.
All my mains, I drove like a dumbass. I mean, the track was so bumpy and it was so difficult to drive, and you just like one wrong, you pushed it a little too hard and the track would bite you. And I mean, I had so many mains and so much time on that track. You would think by the end of the freaking race I would have it down, but I couldn't get past those 1 or 2 mistakes. Like I'd be in the lead. I'd have 1 or 2 stupid mistakes, totally my fault, and then I'd fall back to like 4th or 5th place, and then I'd have to start pushing it to try and catch back up, and then it causes more mistakes, and it's just, one cluster after another. It just sucked. But the car was freaking good. Like I struggled in qualifying. Like I was really good that first round of qualifying, and then the second round I was okay, and then the third round I sucked because the bumps really started coming. But I got a lot of help with the team and the walkers and Max and you and JQ through text messages, and I mean my car was really good in the main too. That was all driver.
Yeah, I heard from a few guys that your cars were the best there. You was doing well in the Nitro main. You and Trent were second and third and battling each other, but then I think you had a flame out in pit lane, luckily, so you didn't lose too much space, but you ended up 4th. So
yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, but we're fixing the flame out. Got a new bullet engine going in my car right now.
I see that.
We're gonna have no more flame outs.
Awesome. So here we had SIC. It's the first big 8-scale race. Not too many pro guys, but we did have 2 of the big players from silly season there. We had Tebo with his new Techno, and we had the Lutzinator with his Agama. Agama's pits look really nice. Billy did a good job. I think there were quite a bit of Agamas at this race. And Cole was there. Cole
with his new tires.
Yep. Yeah. Cole was fast, dude.
Cole was on a mission. Cole, you could tell in Cole's driving that he was on a mission to get that big win and put everybody's thoughts of the Lutz and Tebo, back and forth. Everybody was focused on them, and he wanted to go in and say, "Hey, I'm still here. Don't forget about me." And he did in qualifying. I mean, he really did. He put on a show in qualifying.
Yep. And in the Nitro Buggy main, you was there. I wasn't. I was just watching it online. I think Tebo just kind of walked away with it.
Tebo did. I mean, I think I want to say Lutz had a flame out. I think Lutz had a flame out. Once Lutz had a flame out, Tebo and Cole had a couple wrecks. So he was like 15. Well, I think it was like 10, 12 seconds behind Tebo. And Tebo just, again, with the track as bumpy and as gnarly as it was, and that's Tebo's home. Like that is his style. He loves that kind of stuff, and he just put his car on cruise control and he was done. He was out.
Yeah. How did he? So I'm guessing he's pretty much gelling with his Techno car, but he's a talented driver as well. Really talented.
He is. I mean, I don't care what car he would have had in that particular environment right then and there with that way out that track was. Tebo was probably going to win because he just that's his home. Like those bumpy, crazy, blown out tracks. That's just what he loves. But his car looked freaking awesome too. But so did the Agama. Like Lutz was no joke. And what cracked me up was the Truggy main, because everybody was thinking Tebo's got Truggy. Like Tebo with the Techno Truggy, there's nobody going to touch Tebo and Truggy with that Techno Truggy. And freaking the Agama Truggy was dialed. Like that truck was so good. And everybody keeps saying that the Agama Truggy is like not that good. I don't know anything about it, so I don't know one way or the other, but that's just what everybody says. And look at Lutz, he goes out and kills it. So
yep. And then
I think the big thing though is, throughout the year, who's gonna, the question we asked on an earlier podcast was, is Lutz gonna do anything for Agama, right? Is he gonna, is the Agama brand gonna grow because of Lutz? First race out, man, he gets a win, and I mean his buggy was equally as good. Who knows? I think he's gonna turn some heads.
Awesome. And we're not far out from DNC. So
nope.
That's going to be another true test. We got 4 Europeans confirmed. I'm still waiting to hear that Ongaro confirmation because that's worth admission right there, just going to see him race.
I've heard through the Associated guys that he's definitely coming.
That's great.
If they have to. I mean, look, Associated doesn't have anybody that can. I mean, Spencer can compete, but to say, hey, this guy 100% has a chance to win,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the only associated guy they got is Hungaria, so they have to bring him.
Yeah, I'd like to see Berton come as well to race for Kyosho. I think that might happen. He's really fast, so if
I'd
anybody
like
can,
to see Canas come with all his new stuff.
that would be great too.
Because they're like, well, who is Cav gonna get help with the S-Works car? I mean, he's gonna need them.
I can see that happening. I can definitely see that happening. But it's awesome. 8 scales starting up, racing starting, and this is my like. I love talking. I love being at the races, but I love talking about them after even more. So, it's gonna be great.
It is.
But that's enough about this.
And DNZ JQ's a primary sponsor.
Yeah, he is.
What's up with that? Like, how is that going to go over with them with Jimmy announcing JQ takeover as a sponsor for what, 5 days, 4 days? Like, how is that going to go over?
I don't know, but he probably blew the budget on that. That's now we gotta we got Mike Hill and I gotta drive the van over to California, and we're like thinking how we're gonna make water into fuel,
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's gonna be. Oh my God, that's gonna be. Can you imagine? See now, JQ, he's a guy who feels like he's an entitled guy now because I'm a sponsor of the race. So last year he was a dick and he did some crazy stuff and he had no entitlements. Now he's got entitlement. Oh my God, I can only imagine what he's going to do. I cannot miss this race. This is going to be awesome.
If you two are together, I cannot take my eyes off you two for less than 5 minutes because it's just going to be trouble.
Oh my God, we would start a riot.
It's going to be
find
awesome.
a way to start a riot.
It's going to be awesome.
We just got to make sure we set up our pits next to Team Mugen.
See, we're already starting trouble.
Next to him.
We're already starting trouble.
If we could even face them, so like if JQ and I can have our table facing the Mugen pits, oh my God, that would be awesome. Like Team Mugen would be checked out. They wouldn't even make the main.
Oh, see what I mean? No, we can't leave you two alone for a long time at all. Not at all. But DNT is gonna be awesome. I hope you do make it out there. I start my journey like the week, almost 2 weeks before it. Like I leave here and go up to North Carolina and then chill out there, go pick up some stuff from Beach RC, then we start the journey across. It should be awesome.
It is going to be fun. You're going to have a blast.
Cool. Well, let's call this knob end Joseph, and we got a serious setup question for him, and let's see if he can answer it. This is going to be a short segment where we're going to pick one subject, and then get Joseph and whoever else. It might be Jeff, it might be somebody else to talk about it briefly. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and we have to stop Joseph from going into science mode. So let me call Joseph. This is the new segment sponsored by Assault RC. It's called the Invisible Speed segment. Please go online and check out assaultrc.com for all the latest products for all performance RC, featuring the best lubes and specialty tools on the market. If you go on the website, use Lefty19 all in caps, you will get 10% off your order on checkout. So remember, assaultrc.com, Lefty19 in all caps for 10% off. We would like to thank Assault RC for coming on and sponsoring the new Invisible Speed segment. I hope you guys enjoy it. And the point of this segment is it's kind of like a setup segment, but we're trying to catch Joseph off guard because, he's the so-called know-it-all about setup. So this weekend, we have Jeff on board who's got a question for Joseph, and Joseph's going to try and answer it. But we're probably going to do a subject every week. So we might do one subject like camber or roll center or shocks, and Joseph's going to have to answer them as short as possible. So what's up, Joseph? And what's up, Jeff?
Yeah, looking forward to this.
Where's Jeffrey?
I am here. I am ready and prepped with my stumpery questions.
All right. So, Joseph, and I'm telling you now, if you go into complete science mode and start rambling on, I will hang up on you, okay?
Okay, what's my time limit?
We're going to try and make this 15 minutes.
Okay.
So 15 minutes to talk about
Let's go.
whatever subject I so choose to talk about at this very given moment.
But it has to be a setup subject, yes. So
yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Jeff. What do you want to ask Joseph?
Okay, Mr. Know-It-All, Mr. Designer, Mr. I think I'm God's gift to setups and
I think you should start calling me sir.
Oh, fuck you.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, God.
Okay, so my question on this segment today is going to pertain to shocks. Because since I've been driving the JQ car, I have been struggling with shock setup. And I've gone back through all your little bullshit Facebook Lives and all the stuff that you've posted in your blog and all that stuff. And I get that you have done a huge amount of testing with pistons and springs and all that other stuff, right? And you have taken upon yourself to deem that the 7-hole piston is the be-all, end-all piston for the JQ car. Is that an accurate statement?
I would say that I've said that the 7-hole piston is the best piston you can run on any track in any condition. So if you want to pick a piston and just run the same everywhere, then you run that.
Then you run the 7-hole piston, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've tried all different variations of 7-hole pistons. I've tried 1.2s, 1.25s, 1.35s. I've done your suggested setups.
Listen, I've told you a million times, don't exaggerate.
Okay? I'm not.
You haven't tried all of them.
Well, I've tried all the ones that you have posted. So 7-hole, 1.2, 1.23s, 1.3, 1.4s. I've tried all the 7-hole variations. Now I haven't tried your current setup with the what is it, ultimate pistons, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm an American and unfortunately I can't get that shit. So based off stock pistons alone, the 7-hole variations I'm struggling with. Now,
okay,
keep in mind that all the tracks that I've been on recently have all been super bumpy, blown out tracks. So my question comes to you as being, you race a lot of tracks. You've been all over. You've raced on every type of track you could possibly think of. Obviously, either I'm doing something wrong because I still don't feel like my car is handling the bumps as well as it could. And I think it's based off of the 7-hole pistons. I think going to either an 8-hole piston would benefit the car in a lot of instances, but I'm not 100% sold on the 7-hole piston. So for me, I think you're full of shit when it comes to saying that the 7-hole piston is the best piston for most all-around tracks, because I don't think that's right. I don't think that's true.
Okay, so what's your car doing wrong? It's too bouncy, it feels stiff, or what's the problem?
Car, so if you will take SIC. So SIC, the shock package I personally ended up with at SIC was 8-hole 1.3 front and rear, and then I ended up with 500 weight in the front, 400 in the rear, and I ran HB springs front and rear. That was my shock package, and I limited the shocks like you told me to do, and that was a help, by the way, so I do appreciate that.
Okay, so if I was at rough track, let's say the standard setting is 7 holes, 1.25 front, 1.35 rear. The shocks are pretty stood up, and depending on traction, either run the JQ Gray on a loose track or HB Yellow or the Mugen 9.0 or 10.5, I think it was, on a higher grip track. And let's say the track's bumpy, it's rough, and my car feels nervous. It feels stiff, it's bouncing around. So what would I do? Well, there are really three things I would adjust on the shocks. So the first would be running the 7 1.3s in the front instead of 2.5s helps a bit. I think that the 7 1.35 is almost always better than the 1.4, so I would stick with that. I would lean my shocks over.
Is that
the
the front or back? Front or back?
On the back. Front would be 7 1.3, and back would be 7 1.35.
Because I did try 7.13 in the front and 7.14 in the back.
Okay. I prefer the 7 1.35 in the back. Then I would lay my shocks down on the shock tower also. That helps a lot to...
I did that.
Helps a lot in the bumps. And one thing that I find that people do wrong is they run a shock oil that's too thick. Because for whatever reason, I think the JQ, you can get away with running the JQ car a bit softer than a lot of other cars. So on a rough track, don't be afraid of trying softer shock oils, because even if you think it feels too soft, it might still be just right on the track. So don't be afraid to try thinner shock oils. And then for the springs, it kind of depends on the traction of the track, not so much the bumps. If it's loose and bumpy, I would run the stock JQ gray springs. But then if it's like I think the SIC track was, it wasn't super loose. There was a bit of a groove. There was some dust. There was some sharp edges.
Yeah,
but
during
overall,
qualifying, it was medium.
The grip was okay, right?
During qualifying, it was a medium grip, and then for the mains, it was high grip.
Yeah.
So we should have been running R2 compound, our long wear soft compounds.
Yeah.
And we were on blues and we were wearing tires out. And when the tire heated up, the car got super edgy and wanted to flip over and shit.
Okay, so then I would run the HB yellows or the Mugans. If the track is rough, maybe I would prefer the Mugans because the Mugen springs calm the car down a bit.
Now, don't you have to cut the Mugen springs?
No, you don't have to. Some drivers that got the Mugen springs, they didn't cut them and they were just fine.
Oh, okay.
So you don't necessarily have to do that.
Okay, because I haven't tried the Mugen springs yet.
That's really all I would do to the shocks. But for the bumps, what I would do is I would change some other things on the car to help with the bumps.
Well, I did. I mean, we went back and forth, and you gave me all the rear hub placements to put to place, and that really helped. Like that, the car, I could drive through the bumps instead of like before. Anytime I hit a bump, the ass end would kick up, or it'd want to kick out, or it just every single bump my car felt, and it reacted to it. So
we changed there was going from one shim in front of the hub. You moved the hub back one step, so two shims in front of the hub. So moving the hub back helped in the bumps, and then also less anti-squat, right?
Yes.
You went to 1 degree anti-squat instead of 2, and that helps in the bumps. So those two changes are definitely ones you should do on rough tracks. And then because the track was sort of edgy, you also raised the hub. So you use the middle hole in the rear hub insert, which raises the hub a bit, and then you use
the one with the plus on the inside.
Yeah, for toe in. So you still have a good grip, so you never slide into bumps. So it's always you drive around the track without sliding the rear end, so it can't slide into a bump and flip the car over.
Right. So
and then the last thing was raising the hub. I mean. After you raised the hub to the middle, you lowered the link on the outside. I mean, long hole on the hub, lower row, and then top hole inside on the shock tower, right?
Yes. Yeah. So all of those changes definitely helped. Like my car went through the bumps fine. It was good. I still felt that I was missing the boat on the shocks though, because I still felt like my car wasn't like I could drive through the bumps, but my car still, it felt every single bump. So it wasn't like the pack wasn't right, or it wasn't absorbing the bumps right, and it still wanted to kick around a little bit.
Are you sure your shock oil was thin enough?
Well,
how did it feel on the bench?
Like, yeah, I mean, it felt like everybody else's. I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't soft by any means.
Okay, so I would say in that situation, next time, give thinner shock oils a try.
Okay.
Didn't it get colder as well, Jeff?
Yes. Sunday for main day was the coldest day.
So that would affect your shock temperature as
well. In fact, it was fucking freezing.
That would affect your shock oils as well.
Right. So, yeah.
For me, the 8-hole pistons have never really worked. I've been to one track that the Sweden Euros track. Mm-hmm. It was
very rough.
Super high speed, big bumps. At that track, at the warm up, there was a Swedish guy running a JQ, and he ran the 8-hole pistons, and he was doing really well. And I drove his car, and it was good. So at that specific track, in those conditions, the 8-hole pistons were really good. But then the problem with those pistons for me is if I go to a different track, then the car can just be terrible. And they just don't work at all. So like in specific conditions, yes, another piston can be better. But
okay,
they aren't going to work everywhere.
Right.
That's the problem.
So what is your take on the new revolutionary, like game-changing MIP valve pistons? Even though valve pistons have been out by VRP and other manufacturers, do you think that valve piston has any merit?
I don't think it's revolutionary, because when I first got in the hobby and started racing, people were already doing that. So it's not something new. Basically what they are doing is they're making it so the shock rebounds faster. And for most cars, that just makes them feel more bouncy and nervous. Okay. So I would really have to try them to see what I think. But I think what people have faced with the VRPs and what they're gonna face with these MIPs is that you would really have to tune them to each individual track and each individual situation. If you want it to work everywhere, then you can't really go for something extreme. You have like a basic setup that works everywhere, but then it's not going to be something which is a huge benefit compared to what we have now. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Like it would take an extreme amount of time and patience and work to get something for an individual track condition and layout and driver for there to be a big benefit. I think it can benefit definitely, but then it's only for that driver, that condition, that layout, that track. It's like perfected for that. Then I think if you go to another track, then it won't work. So.
Well, you better get on that because you better get on that testing, because your buddy Drake is currently, ahead of the game and testing all that.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think that if you get those pistons, then you're just gonna start winning races. I don't think that. Because if that was the case,
no invisible speed with those pistons.
Over these past 20 years, someone would have figured it out by now, I'm sure.
Oh.
Hey,
yeah, actually, there could be some invisible speed thanks to those.
Joseph, I have a quick question, and make this brief. Why do you prefer the ultimate V-tapered pistons? Is it cone-shaped pistons? I can't remember exactly what you call them.
I think the bigger deal with those pistons is how the holes are angled. So I think Kyosho is the first company to do that, where they don't drill the holes straight, they angle them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found with those pistons was that I could run the suspension soft, but the shocks would still have pack.
Okay.
So you could run it so at low speed, the car would handle the uneven track surface, and it would have grip and it would feel good to drive, but then it would also pack up.
Okay, well, one thing I am confused about that shock package that you're running, though. You say that it's a 7-hole piston, but you're blocking 1 hole. So is that making it a 6-hole piston?
No, the pistons are 8-hole pistons, so you have to block 1 hole to make it 7.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, has he answered your question sufficiently, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. I mean, it's still like he's still on the whole 7-hole thing. Like the 7-hole is everything.
Well, the thing is that really I've been the only one pretty much to test pistons and try and figure out a setup. So all help is welcome. If you want to try and figure out a better shock package, that would be great. I mean,
well, you're not allowed to take it.
That would help me out. You know, I'm able to take advice from anyone. You know, I may have an ego, but it's intact. I don't have a problem with taking advice from anyone. I'm not fragile. You know, I don't get triggered if someone else figures something out.
1 second.
I know. I'm processing this. Hold on. Hang on.
You didn't take my advice at Southern Nets, and you sucked. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Keenan.
Yeah.
You have zero track record, and I thought you were wrong.
I was right.
Yeah.
But
and with the pistons, I think if you want to run a different piston, maybe try 6-hole 1/4s, for example. Those have been pretty good too.
So I think I'm going to try the shock package that I ran on my associated car, which was 6-hole pistons, front and rear. In the front, I ran 3 holes at 1, 2, and 3 holes at 1, 2, 5. And then in the rear, I did 1, 2, 5, 3 holes, and 3 holes at 1, 3, 5. And
okay,
that setup worked. Kind of like what you're saying, that bullshit you're saying about the 7-hole pistons, like that worked everywhere I went with my associated car.
Okay. Well, let me know how that goes. And if those pistons aren't good, then just try bigger holes, like up to, 1/4s even.
Okay.
See how it goes.
All right.
Well, great. We got.
And I want to get some of those ultimate pistons. Like, maybe when you come to DNC.
Yeah, I'll try and get some.
You can bring some for us shit fountains that we need, So we're just gonna try something.
Oh my god.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate that, and thank you guys for tuning in to the Assault RC Speed Secret segment. Remember, you guys can go to assaultrc.com, or you can go to Beach RC and pick up all your cool Assault RC bits and pieces. So thank you, Joseph, and thank you, Jeff. And now I'm going to get on to the interview with Mark Pavidis. So talk to you guys later. So what's up, guys? Welcome to the No Name RC Podcast, Episode 12, Legends of RC. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Pavidis here with us today, 2006 8-scale world champion. What's up, Mark? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. How's things in California today?
It's a cool 82 degrees and no humidity.
Okay, that's good. How do you think the weather's going to be around DNC time next month?
February typically is a little bit of a wetter month for California, and where the DNC is, that area tends to get pretty cold in the evenings.
Okay.
So, but the race started out in Hemet, California, and so where the event's taking place this year is not too far from its origin.
Okay. That should be cool. In case you guys don't know who Mark Pavidis are, you're probably living under a proverbial RC rock. But he's a multiple time world champion in 10 scale. Well, he won 10 scale in 1995 four-wheel drive tramp, 2006 8 scale off-road championship in Jakarta, and he's also a 10 scale on-road champion. Multiple, I think 2-time Reedy Race champion and on-road champion, and multiple national titles and probably multiple big race wins that we can't even name. But if you don't know who he is, then you guys will know at the end of this podcast. So I don't know, man. I don't really want to dwell too much on your early years, but I did read the other day in your biography that you got started with a Tamiya car at a track in Costa Mesa. How did that come about?
Yeah, so my dad at the time, we were looking to do a hobby together, and we went to the local hobby store, and at the time, RC cars really weren't super popular. This is probably 2, maybe 3 years before the RC10, really came out. And anyway, so my dad, he was in the Navy, and he really wanted to get an RC airplane. So we went to the hobby store. He got an RC airplane, and at that time, you don't buy an RC airplane and then 30 minutes later it's in the air. Back in those days, you have to build everything that you had, right? So it took him a few months to build it, and we went to the flying field, and it took him a few seconds to crash it.
No way.
So, yeah. So, back then I was like, oh, all of this hard work, it's gone. I was like 6, 7, I'm crying. Like, this isn't any fun. So we went back to the hobby shop. My dad went to get another airplane, and that's kind of when I saw the cars under the counter there. And so my first car, true car, was a Super Champ, Tamiya Super Champ.
Okay. And you raced at a track in Costa Mesa. What track was that?
It was called RCH, and at the time they had a small little retail shop on 19th Street in Costa Mesa, and a little outdoor track, a little dirt area in the parking lot there, and people would pull up, pop their hoods, hook up their chargers to the car battery, charge their batteries, and then race. So that was kind of my first local track experience was RCH in Costa Mesa.
Okay. Did you ever meet Jay Smoker in those times? That's his neighborhood around there, and he keeps.
Yeah, that's his neighborhood, but I never ran into him.
Okay, crazy. He tells me all the time that he invented Truggy. I gotta get him here on the podcast. I'll be seeing him soon anyway when we get to California. Yeah. So after you got in, you started racing. How did it progress from there? How did you get your first sponsorships? Like, what was your timeline pretty much like?
I spent the first, I'd say probably 3 years, just kind of doing RC, not really competing at a high level. It was more just for fun, and you'd build jumps in your backyard or race it down the street. And then there was a local indoor track, pretty much the first local indoor track in Southern California. It was called Hot Tracks. And it was a really small indoor track, not very big at all. But anyway, you'd go there, and back when we all had wiper arm speed controls, and you'd show up, and I remember that was the first time I saw Jay Halsey and his dad. They just won the World Championships not too long after I started racing, and I was like, oh, that's the guy that won that race, and he's got his standing next to his car and all that stuff. And so anyway, one thing led to another, and I started racing, and then more and more, and I got a job at the local track, which was Hot Tracks at the time, and just helping them, get the track ready for the next night's racing, and anyway, kind of, because a lot of the RC industry was in Southern California, that was their local go-to track. So I got in touch with Mike Reedy through the hobby shop, and one of the events he gave me a modified motor to try out. Just no sponsorship, but he just said, hey, give this a try. Why don't you try modified some night at your local race? And I think it was 1988. I ended up entering the Reedy race, which was the very first Reedy race at Hot Tracks. It was the year that Chris Moore won, I believe. Chris Moore and Chris Alec, won the invitational class. and I made the D main. And during my D main, I ended up crashing or something, and the magnet and the motor fell out. And Mike came over, saw that I had this issue, and he gave me a brand new motor.
Really?
Just so I could keep racing.
That's
keep
cool.
racing.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
So that's kind of the guy that Mike Reedy was,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he's really the one that kind of got me to that next level in racing, because I couldn't afford to race all the time, and so we kind of got to know each other, and through the hobby shop, and a few months more went by, and I won a couple local just local events that they'd have there, in the stock class, and that's when Mike kind of offered me a very small sponsorship, some tires and wheels and, a couple parts, but nothing, no car kits or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of how it evolved, and then eventually from there I worked for Cliff Left in his garage packaging turnbuckles, and then eventually, ended up working at Associated part-time during high school.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, because we're talking about Reedy, and the Reedy race is going on at the moment. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you worked with Cliff let packaging turnbuckles, then to Associated. So I'm guessing Cliff took you with you when he went to work for Associated?
Yeah, so even before I started, I was kind of in helping out at the track, and then I was also working part-time on the weekends too at, I don't know, most people might know Hobby Shack or Hobby People.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Yep. And they had a hobby store not too far from my house, so I went Hobby Shack, and then part-time at the RC track working, and then worked part-time in Cliff's garage packaging turnbuckles and bodies for RC Performance, and then and then started working part-time after school for Team Associated, which led to a full-time opportunity.
Yeah. So what was your job description at Associated when you went full-time?
Yeah. So when I started there, I was just more or less kind of helping Mike Reedy prepare motors and batteries for events that they were going to go to, and then once I got hired on full time was kind of about the same time when we started going to more events. So I was also racing, and then when we weren't going to big races, I was working under Mike Reedy, pretty much doing the batteries and stuff with the motors and pretty much anything that involved Reedy modified.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So this is like early 90s, I would say, like 90, 91, 89.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And then towards the end of my time there at Associated, it kind of evolved. Racing became more and more of a mainstay, and people were getting paid now to go race full time. So it became more of a R&D position towards the end of my time at working more under Cliff West at Associated.
Okay. So now you're moving to, when you went from the R&D, when do you start becoming like Mark Pavidis professional racer? And that's your, like, pretty much your whole job.
Yeah, I mean, I never, during my whole career, RC racing career, I never just RC raced. I always RC raced, and when I went back, I'm an employee at Associated. So I was never like the guys now. They're just RC racers. They're contracted RC racers that they get paid to go to the track and produce results. They don't want them coming in and pulling orders or answering the telephone. They're strictly paid to go racing. Okay, so
you always had a real job per se.
Correct.
Along with racing. So when did you actually start, I would say, traveling more and racing more than, like, I'm guessing they actually sent you out to race a lot more once like obviously once you started getting results. So I'm guessing getting time off from work to race and whatnot was not an issue. So like,
No, it wasn't. It wasn't an issue. So it'd be like the guys now, the Cavaliers, the Tebos, Mayfield. So same thing for me. Any big event, I'd go to. But if there's any downtime when there's no event, then that's when I would be at work.
okay. Did you still do a lot of club racing on the weekends and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, usually I'd go race once, maybe twice a week back then.
All right. You was busy, dude. That's a lot of that. Well, I guess that's what you have to do to become the best, don't you?
Yeah, it was busy. I mean, of course, all of this was pre any type of girlfriend or any kids or family or anything like that. So, it was just me. I didn't have to worry about anyone else until kind of later in my career is when I started, I had a wife, I had a family. So, but all in the early stages, it was a lot of traveling.
So when did you win your first of your Reedy races? What year was that?
That's a good question. A long time ago.
Like the 90s? Before your first world championship in 95?
Yeah, maybe it was probably all around that time.
Mm-hmm. So, being as you came up racing fully in the 90s, let's talk about a little bit about RC in the 90s, 10th scale and 8th scale. I'm pretty sure 10th scale was king in this time, but 8th scale started to come around as well, right?
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yeah. 8th scale starts coming around, and then I love just the gas side of it, and I was never around it getting into the RC stuff just because it was always not very reliable. That was kind of the whole gas thing. That's what it was known for. It's cool, but yeah, it lasts 5 minutes or breaks down, but kind of about the time I was getting into it, it started to gain a lot of traction, and the cars were more reliable. The engines were really good. And you can go and compete at these races, and your stuff wasn't falling apart or shutting off. So it became really fun. It was a whole nother side of RC racing that I'd never seen before, and it really intrigued me.
Yeah. What year was that? Was that when gas truck really started to take off? Because a lot of these guys, a lot of these guys that I talked to, I done one with Tebo. Degani always says it too. Like that's. Saxton said it. It was like back then, 8th scale was second and gas truck was king. So
very true.
And it was like if you can wheel a gas truck with you guys, because you was like one of the names that was brought up as like one of the guys that were to beat back in the day. You, Matt Francis, obviously who else? I think Quartz was mentioned in there. A lot of the old school guys, Saxton. So when did that? I kind of asked this to Saxton too. When did the shift start ultimately from 10th scale to 8th scale predominantly? Like 10th scale gas truck, to 8th scale car.
Back when gas trucks kind of was taking off, that's when the manufacturers, both Losi, Associated, and even Kyosho at the time, they were all producing these gas trucks or developing them, and they were all American made. At the time, so except for the Kyosho one, but it really drove the companies here to have some type of gas off-road vehicle, and the U.S. companies, Losi or Associated, they didn't want to pursue the 8th scale market because it wasn't big enough. But at the time, you go to these big races and you just don't want to run one class. So what happened was, we ended up getting a hold of the 8th scale manufacturer, and for me at the time it was Mugen. And I got a hold of them, and they don't know any of us over here at the time, and I said, hey, I'm Mark Pavidis, I race here in the US, and they can barely understand me because I'm calling Japan. And they decided, okay, we'll send you something, and then their US distribution was just starting up at the same time, so got a car, and so that's kind of how things kind of paralleled at the events, that I had a gas truck that was my main priority, and then this 8-scale car to kind of fill in the downtime.
What was your first Mugen car? Was it the Super Athlete?
Yeah, Super Athlete.
So the engine was on the other side and whatnot. That's pretty
cool.
Yep,
the engine was the opposite side. The gas tank was in the rear, the left rear, I believe. And then, backwards, the spur gear was in the very back by the rear transmission, and
wow, that's cool.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, that's people wouldn't even remember that type of stuff. Well, these kids nowadays, they wouldn't. Did you even have a starter box back then, or do you have to bump start it?
Yeah, it was a starter box.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So as we progress into the 2000s, 10 scale starts to pretty much die, I would say. When would you say that 10 scale electric kind of just died?
10 scale electric?
Yeah, it died for a while when 8 scale became king. I would like early 2000s.
Yeah.
It wasn't as popular as it was in the 90s, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, the tracks were kind of in a limbo state. I mean, 8 scale at the time was just, it just drew in so many more people. And I think from the aspect that you have the sound, you're at these big outdoor events, it's shooting dirt up in the air. Like, I mean, there's something that you can kind of relate to where the 10 scale stuff at the time just became kind of boring. You have to cut the motor, the brushes, and all the work involved. Racing back then was a lot of work. Where you go 8 scale racing and you fill it up, you just keep running. And it wasn't until all the brushless stuff and LiPo batteries in 10 scale really turned 10 scale around, but.
Yeah, but like in the 2000s, I would say that's when truck started to die. Truggy took over, and then I mean, I would say, from 2000 and I would say from when Richard had the Worlds in 2000 in Vegas up until it's still big. Somebody was arguing with me the other day, saying Nitro is dying, and I'm just like, no, I don't think it's dying. I just think e-buggy's growing, obviously because of LiPo, like you said, LiPo and brushless technology, and of course 10 scale. But Nitro is never going to die. Right. I don't think. So
every event I've been to, I mean, it's hard to say, oh, Nitro's dead. I mean, a lot of it is just kind of due to the nature of the industry that we see, as far as sales go. But when you go to these events, I mean, they're all jam-packed. Mm-hmm. Crazy.
It is. I mean, we're going after the SIC race was this weekend, and it had like 500 and something entries, but I would say maybe 350 people, I think it was there, close to that. So it's still really jam-packed. So after you left Mugen, then I'm taking it. Sorry, I'm just jumping back to 2000s and 8 scale. That's that was when you kind of went to Kyosho after Mugen was Kyosho, correct? Because it was only Mugen and Kyosho back in the day, really.
Yeah, it was end of the 90s, early 2000 there. I think the Worlds in Las Vegas was in 2000, so that was kind of my first Worlds with a Kyosho car.
Yeah. How did that go for you?
It was good. I think we TQ'd every round of qualifying by either 6 to 10 seconds every round. And, it was the first time that the European drivers came over and kind of experienced a more American-style 1/8 scale world. Mm-hmm. So it really suited the U.S. type style driving. And then back then the top qualifier was direct into the final. So I didn't get to go on the track at all until the day of the final, until the final started.
Really? And no practice?
Yeah, no practice. And I think I got to run in one of the semi practices back then, now that I think about it, but I didn't get to do any racing. It was a very limited amount of time on the track. And that kind of hurt me a little bit. And then it got into my head, and then, I got into the main started, and then just one mistake after another. And long story short, I think I finished 4th.
Yeah. Oh, that's not bad. I mean, fourth is still good, but obviously you wanted to win. That's the one Kanai won. Who was on the podium that year? Do you remember?
I think it was Daniel Reckward and maybe Miguel Matias.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Dude,
Something like that.
Miguel's been racing forever too, dude. Jesus.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So yeah, there's a lot of worlds where I've been extremely close, and it never happened.
Yeah. How about Uruguay when Degani won?
Yeah. I think he sabotaged me.
Do tell me that story, because I like to bust his balls every once in a while.
No, he drove good. I know everyone thinks Greg Degani, but I mean, you know what? I mean, you can talk all the smack you want, but I mean, he had his program down. I mean, he drove well. His car didn't fall apart. He was consistent, and in 8 scale, if you're consistent and you don't have any problems, your likelihood of doing well, I mean, you just raise the stakes. I mean, so that's what he did. He made sure that his car didn't fall apart, that his engine stayed running, and he stayed on all 4 tires, and that's what he did, and he did a really good job of doing it, and ended up winning. Yeah. Everyone else had problems.
Yeah. I remember watching that. Well, I shouldn't say watching. I remember getting live posts about that Worlds on the starting grid when you guys were down there. It's pretty cool. So in 2004 was in Sweden. I should have done my research, but I can't remember where you finished there. I know that track was very difficult. I remember lots of pebbles getting into flywheels. Guys had to put like Lexan shields on their chassis to stop that. And was that another one you felt that kind of got away? I can't remember if you.
Yeah, a little bit. I think I finished 4th there too. But yeah, I mean, the one to beat was Michael Paulson. That was his home track, and that track layout at the time it stayed in. It never changed. It never varied. We went over to the warm up to test on it, and it was a difficult track to go fast on because it was a very high speed track. Tip from what a lot of us U.S. drivers, you go down the straightaway to 180, you slow down, turn, and you accelerate to the next corner, brake, turn again. Well, in Europe, you stay on the gas. You're not braking, you're not slowing down. You're trying to carry as much speed around these high speed corners. So it was a lot different style of driving than what we were used to. And so we went to the warm up, and we learned a lot, and ended up coming back, and we were competitive, and we were fighting for top qualifier with Yannick Agwan, and I think we tied on points, or he got me by 1 point or something. So it was super close.
Yeah. Then he got DQ'd for like 0.5 cc or something like that. That was crazy.
Yeah, something crazy.
Yeah. I remember watching that Worlds as well, man. It was pretty. I think that track still has that M-shaped uphill section, and I think it's AstroTurf now, if I'm not, or grass or something, but it's still almost exactly the same as it was in 2004. That's the one that Guilliman Ray won. He came out of nowhere to win that one. Yeah. Pretty cool. So then we go into 2006 in Jakarta, and a lot of people didn't go to this. This is the one that a lot of people didn't go to because they were scared to go to Indonesia, correct?
Yeah, I mean, at the time there was some bombings going on. Then I want to say that there was they had the big tsunami there not too long before we were there. But it was on the other side. It was on the other side of Indonesia. But still, but I've been to so many places traveling for RC, and everyone says, well, LA's, people that aren't from LA or come in, they're like, oh, I don't know if I'd go there. They think of Compton or what they see in the movies, and I go, well, of course, every town, every state, country, they all have their bad places. But so anyway, we went to Jakarta. We were meted with one of the representatives from the track. They were there at customs to pick us up. I mean, everything was really well taken care of, and the hotel and the place where the event was it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been to a World that was that nice.
Yeah. I've heard that a couple of times from the people that did go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Angus, he still races. He was the one that kind of put on the event, and he and his staff did an amazing job.
So
the banquet for the final was on a beach.
Really?
With like tiki torches, and yeah, it was really cool.
That's cool, man. People, I agree with you on that. I live in the Dominican Republic, and people's like, "Oh, it's so dangerous down there." I'm like, "Yeah, every place is dangerous, but I love it there." So you know, I don't worry about the dangerous part. I just keep on going.
Yeah.
So this is the Worlds in Jakarta. Now here's because obviously I talk to Dagani a lot, and this is the one that he says he almost won. He said Yannick Aiguan broke. Then he came in, and then he broke like half an hour into it, and then you won it. Or was it? I think that's how he explained it to me. So you tell me about this race, because I always I like to get Dagani, and catch him out and see what I can say to him next time I see him. So
yeah,
tell me about your experience during that race.
So that race, I was top qualifier. So, but then. Now we're going back a few years from when I top qualified in Las Vegas to top qualifying in Jakarta. And now IFMAR changed the rules. So now the top qualifier has to race his way into the final.
Mm-hmm.
So I started first, and I had a few issues, but I wasn't really too concerned about it. I go, you know what? You don't have to win. Don't break your car. Let's make the final. Don't try to finish in the back, but let's try to get a decent starting spot for the final. So that's what I did. I didn't really push it too much. We ended up, I think, getting second or third in the semi, so we started third in the final. And but yeah, once the main started, the track was really blown out, and everyone was making mistakes. And I happened to fly off the track the very first lap. But I told myself, this is the one, you got to do it. You can't give up. And I was so far back, but everyone was having problems. So I slowly started catching up, and I don't remember what happened to Greg Dagani. I just remember the last maybe 25 minutes is Yannick was in the lead, and he ended having an issue, whether it was his engine or the Marshall turn,
The Marshall cut him out or something, I think. That's what Dagani said.
Yeah. So he was out, and he had a fairly decent lead. So now, I think Scott Hughes was in the lead, or Gilliam Bray. So they were bouncing the lead back and forth. And I knew that they kept saying my lap times, and they were so much faster than those other guys. And we ended up doing one less pit stop than most of the guys too in the final, which allowed us to catch even further back. And so that's how we ended up coming back. And I passed Scott was in the lead, I think with 5 minutes to go, and I passed him. And then he made a couple mistakes, and I was like, wow, this is it. And we came coming across the finish line. If you ever watch the video, I can't even drive my car straight. I'm so nervous. And I get kind of stuck on this concrete barrier. And all I could think about is this thing is going to shut my engine off. So I just held it wide open, and it came off kind of the curb, and then I ended up crossing the line. And once I crossed the line, I didn't even see my car. I just looked down to Kevin Sharp and Mike Craddock, who were pitting me, and I tossed down the radio. I just tossed it. I was like, that's it. We won it. And Keevan looks up, and same with Mike Craddock. And Mike Craddock just happens to look up at the same time, and it's right in his face, but he caught it, and he was all worried about driving it because he didn't want to get us penalized. So
Yeah, that
Yeah.
must
So
have been. He actually sent me that video of when he caught it, and that's
yeah,
pretty cool. I mean, I was reading like you consider that your biggest win in RC. So, do you still to this day consider it your biggest win?
yeah, I really do because I think anyone that's raced 8 scale really knows that it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that have to go right in order to win, and I've been close before, like very close, but nothing went right. And even though during the Jakarta race that I won, there was a few things that went wrong that I noticed, but for the most part, everything did go right,
Mm-hmm.
and everything didn't go exactly right for second or third, or Yannick, he was leading the race and he had a problem. So anything can happen, and when you win one and be close like that, I mean, it just makes you feel that much better, to accomplish that goal. So
That's awesome. I remember that. I was actually watching a bit of the race on YouTube the other night too, and like it's so weird to see like I remember that era when the cars had the rounded bodies and all that stuff and spoke wheels and
yeah,
whatnot. But very cool. Did you was that your last worlds that you felt that you was competitive or?
yeah, because I knew, and that was the other thing too. I knew if I went to that world in Jakarta, we were starting a family, and at the time, I had 2 young kids, and they were just taking more and more of my time, which is fine, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
you have them. So the focus on racing became a little less than 100%, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
when you go racing, if you're not 100% focused on what you're there to do and put in the time to be the best, then it's really you're just another racer.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I put a lot of effort into that Jakarta race. Didn't matter if some people win or some people didn't go. I put in 110%,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that in the future I wouldn't be able to do 110%.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I want to do my best, I just knew that was my time. That if I'm going to do it, I need to do it now.
No,
So I'm glad it happened.
yeah, you definitely done it and became the second American world champion. So that's pretty
Yep.
cool. That's pretty cool. So I'm gonna move on here. You was Kyosho for a very long time in the golden era of Kyosho, we like to call it. Why do you think Kyosho was so dominant during this time?
When I came on board, it was kind of strictly 8 scale.
Mm-hmm.
They did have a 10 scale program, but it was really, really barbaric.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 scale, or I should say 8 scale, it was Kyosho or Mugen.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyosho had such a reputation, such a strong reputation in 8 scale, that if you go 8 scale racing, that's what you get. You get a Kyosho. So when I came on board to race with them, I also came on board to help them develop some 10 scale stuff. So like the RB6, and then like some of the laser platforms. I worked closely with some of their designers and worked on those projects.
Cool. So you was with Kyosho to what year? You started, I would say, what year did you start? Can you remember?
Maybe 99.
Okay, and when did that tournament? When did that finish up?
Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe '09 or 10, something like that.
So why did your time at Kyosho end? You just wanted to move on or try something different?
Yeah. So when I was running Kyosho, I was working at Proline, and then I ended up leaving Proline and went to work for Kyosho. And at the time, Kyosho presented us an opportunity, hey, to start another brand, and the brand being AKA, which was under the Kyosho brand. So when I was working there, they ended up letting me go along with Gil and everyone else, and that's when AK became a separate entity from Kyosho. And that's when I decided, you know what, I don't really want to support Kyosho in a way that, since I'm not working for them, it kind of became two separate interests.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to keep it just very focused on just the brand AK,
Mm-hmm.
and not so much on do the Kyosho and I'll do the AK thing. So yeah, I left Kyosho and then I went to go run Losi cars.
Yeah.
So,
What?
and, yeah.
How did that decision come about to go to TLR?
Just at the time we had a good relationship with our distributors, and Horizon was a big part of AK, being a distributor of AK, and just a lot of the local guys in the area were running TLR, and it was just an easy fit. They were willing to help me, and we were willing to help their team, supply them with tires for testing, and stuff like that. So it was a good fit for the time.
Okay. And now you're retired somewhat, but still running Associated, correct?
Yeah, so my role as a racer became more of a weekend racer, and my son's racing quite a bit now, and trying to, he does quite well, but Associated offered him a really good opportunity with their vehicles, and it was hard for me to. I would like to see him kind of go back with Associated just because that's where I started, but they truly did offer him a good opportunity, and not to say Losi didn't, but it just seemed a better fit at the time.
Okay. Cool. So we touched on a little bit on how AKA started, and your involvement in AKA through Kyosho, and then eventually you guys just formed. That's going to be one of my next questions. Is everyone thought you was an owner at AKA, but how come you wasn't?
It's a difficult question. So when Kyosho owned AKA, and then the owner of Kyosho decided that, hey, we don't have the funds to keep AK going. It was only a year old, but they couldn't quite see where the company was going at the time. So I remember Joel went over to a hobby show at the time, and he came back and said, AK is no longer part of Kyosho. Myself and Gil purchased it away from Kyosho.
Okay.
And which was great. I still had a job, but at the same time, I'm a little bit upset, to say the least, that I wasn't given an opportunity to be a part of it when they went ahead and did that. So that was a little bit of a rough area for about a year and a half, 2 years, internally with us at AK. I thought, out of common respect, I think, because we all kind of started AK together, myself, Gil Losi, and Joel Johnson, that I would have been given an opportunity to do so. Instead, it was at the time when I came to them. At the time, I was told that, lucky to have a job. Maybe down the road if you buy out someone's shares, something like that. So fast forward a few years later, and I met with Joel and Gil, and Pops offered me his share of AK, but at the time, I looked into it, and it wasn't exactly an equal share. It was part of their share, and there's some other reasons too that I didn't pursue it, which I'm glad I didn't. So
yeah. How about your time there? I'm sure there was some good times. I mean, you guys developed some world championship tires. What did you learn there? Like, and just talk about the good times you did have at AKA.
Yeah, no, I mean, to say it was horrible, I mean, that'd be lying. I'm not. I mean, yeah, for sure, we had some awesome times, and it's. I think the most exciting part was taking something that was just on more or less an idea on a napkin and developing something here that was made locally in the U.S. and being able to compete against the companies that have been in business for a long time, the Pro Lines, the J Concepts, and basically kind of change the way that these companies market their product, the way that they look at the manufacturing side of their product, because we changed the packaging. At the time, everything was just coming in a bag with a little header card on the top. We were the first ones to do the printed packaging with the nice Ziploc sealed bag. We were the first ones to come out with the molded foam rubber inserts that you see in everyone else's tires now. We were the first ones to bring that to market. There was just a lot of little things, and that's what made AK very successful, especially in the 8-scale market. And we ended up winning the first world championship with Cody King in Indonesia, in Thailand, and yeah, it was fun. I mean, there was definitely some good times for sure.
What do you think? What was AKA's biggest influence on the tire game?
Biggest influence. I would probably have to say that two things. I would say the foam that's being used in the tires today, as well as the city block tire and the way that we made it, the carcass design. It was a great multi-purpose tire at the time. So it was the tire and that foam combo was just great. We sold so many of those tires. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So now we come to your departure from AKA. How did that come about, and what went wrong?
All right, say it again.
Your departure from AKA. How did that come about?
Okay.
What went ultimately wrong to cause that?
Well, I would say probably the last 2 years. I would say now 3 years, being current. But the last 2 years that I worked there, the company, the economy in general was slowing down. Overseas sales were slowing down because the dollar was so strong. So margins were much lower in the product. Just so many things, I don't know one thing to point at, but the company was becoming less and less profitable, and nothing was really done to change with the times. There's that saying, the reason why the dinosaurs went extinct is because they didn't evolve. And when companies don't evolve with changing times, they go extinct, and it's very true. And to say that I wasn't looking for a job, I mean, you could see the writing on the wall, but I always thought that I would be there until the end, right? Of course, I wanted to have a plan B exit just in case, but so it was about a year or so ago. That's when Joel walked into my office and said, "Hey, we have to let you go," and I was like, "Okay, so I guess no one else is going, like I've been here from the beginning, there's no talk of decreasing salaries. There's no no, we decided that we're going to let you go, and that's just not something we can do. Um, so yeah, they let me go.
Wow. Crazy.
And yeah, so Joel was there to let me go. Gil, I never heard from Gil. Gil wasn't there. Pops wasn't there. Just Joel.
Okay.
So when he let me go, it was at the end of the day on a Friday, and I've never been out of a job or laid off or anything like that. So it was kind of an eye opener to me. I guess what was more of an eye opener to me is kind of the way that I was let go, being somebody that started the company. That hey, there's we want to offer you some type of severance package. You've been with us from day one. We want to make it right. It was never offered that way. And the reason why I say that is because we had two other employees that worked for us that did receive some type of severance package.
Really?
And they weren't, they weren't there. They weren't the high profile employee. I mean, yeah, Greg Hodap, he did a lot of work, and when he got let go, he got a severance. Kind of helped him out in between finding another job. And Brent Figge, he when he was gone, he got paid out on all of his vacation time. So, yeah. So when I got let go, I got my last paycheck, and that was it.
Really? That must have been such a shock to you.
So a lot of people don't know that, and so I wasn't very happy about it. Of course, I'm not crying to get my job back or anything like that, but I just wanted to know why it was taken that way, and so it was explained to me that the company has no money, and we have to make sure that the company stays around. And so anyway, that happened on a Friday. I called to speak with Joel on a Monday about some paperwork that I had to fill out being unemployed, and Joel wasn't in the office. He was on a vacation.
Oh, wow. You must have been fuming.
Yeah, I was upset.
I would be upset. I would be upset.
It's fine. He can go on vacation. I'm not saying he can't, but this was the song and dance from the owners. There is that, hey, we have no money. But you don't tell me that and then go on vacation the week after, the following week that you let me go.
Yeah.
I mean, to me it looks bad.
Yeah, it's kind of like a slap in the face.
Has no money. Yeah, a slap in the face.
Yeah.
The other slap in the face was like, hey, no type of severance or exiting, payment or just something to say, hey, look, you put in almost 10 years with us and helped us get off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a little bit of thanks as we let you go. I'm sorry it didn't work out. So, But unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and I ended up hiring an attorney to look at my case because, what AK did for 10 years was they used my name to market AK products, and I wasn't compensated. All I wanted was a job, and I'm not that person, but I have a family, and I thought it was worth something that I'm going to fight for. If they want to use my name, then you're going to pay me to use my name.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up giving Joel a cease and desist letter, and he offered to put a sticker over my name.
Wow.
Which to me wasn't the right thing to do, and we ended up working things out at the end. So I'm glad we could work on that. But yeah, I would say it didn't go the way that I got let go. I hope that it doesn't happen to anyone like that in our industry. I think it's a small industry and we need to treat each other respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when Joel sat there and looked me in the eyes and let me go, okay, I accept that. But to me, I think Gil not being there as part of an owner, and because I work so closely with him, and to not be there, not call me, to me, really showed the person that he is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine if he comes on here and has a different story, but that's the way it happened. And I ended up doing some side work a few weeks later for one of our vendors, completely non-RC related. But they were in the rubber industry, and I ended up doing some side work for them. And Neil found out about it, and he texted me about 2 weeks later after I was let go from AK, and offered me some side work if I ever needed it to do some side work for AK.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So how's your relationship with Joe and Gil now? Do you guys speak? Are you, I'm guessing you do see each other at some races.
No, I don't really have a relationship with them. I mean, it really was. I never had an outside of relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more strictly a working relationship. And now that I'm not in the industry anymore, and especially the way that I was treated, I have no desire to talk to them.
I don't blame you. I would be pissed off too.
Yeah.
I don't know them. I can't say anything about them, but I would be pissed off too. Just the way you got let go is pissing me off. Because I've been there.
Yeah.
I've had that done to me, and I know how it feels.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks. And, a lot of people, they don't know that. They just see the other side of it. And, I think it's common courtesy if I did find another job. Hey, Joel, hey, Gil, I'm going to give you a 2-week notice. I'm not going to just bail out on you guys. But, hey, I mean, everyone goes about business differently, and that's how they do business. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have one more question now. That being as you're out of the tire game and out of the industry, do you think tires are too expensive in our hobby now?
I mean, everything in general to me seems expensive, especially when I have to start paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's really the nature of these tracks. The tracks kind of take, they're so high grit now that tires just don't last like they used to, So a set of tires for your car, you're looking at $40, $50. And, oh, yeah, that'll last you, depending on track conditions, maybe 20, 30 minutes. Depends. Just depends where you go. But it's hard. It's hard with producing stuff. I mean, everyone's got to make some money.
Mm-hmm.
Companies have buildings that they have to pay for, employees that they have to feed. It's tough. I get it. But at the end of the day, the price is what it is. And you truly do get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And all these tire manufacturers now are really making good products. And it's hard. It's hard to say,
I think it's the track. I wouldn't say
it is the track.
Yeah, I think it comes down to that. People want high traction. They want smooth. They don't want to get their cars dirty. I used to always say back in the day, you could run I could run a whole race weekend with a set of crime fighters, on a loamy track that got blown out, and it worked fine. Now you need one runs, and it's insane the amount of tires and the amount of money I see people putting into tires to race. It's crazy. It's insane. But you want to go fast, you need to have good tires, don't you?
Yep. So, and now that I'm not with AK, my relationship with Proline has really grown, and I'm happy with that. That we kind of came back together, and leaving Proline was honestly one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, with the exception of getting divorced. I mean, Proline was like family to me, and to leave.
So going back to Proline has done what for you, Mark?
Yeah. So I've got, since I left AK, I've established a good working relationship with Proline. It was hard leaving Proline, to say the least. I was, one of the hardest hardest things I've ever had to do. So to be back with Proline and Tim and Todd, I'm happy that my son can be racing with Proline and be supported by them.
That's cool. So, life after RC, what are you doing now?
So when I got let go, I let everyone know, hey, on Facebook or what social media, either at AK, and if they need to reach me, they can reach me here or by my phone. And this one friend, I should say, more or less, that I got to know through RC. He RC'd a little bit, but he owned this company that took Mercedes Sprinter vans and converted them into these ultra high-end outdoor adventure vans.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a really good fit. They offered me a good position and, a design customer relationship role. And so I've been there just over a year now. And wow, their business is just booming. The whole van life experience is pretty crazy.
Yeah, Alex Morelli that owns Indy RC has one of those Mercedes box vans, and he had it at the Nationals, and he had that thing on all day, every day. It was pimped out in there. I went in there and saw it. He had the air conditioner on. It was really nice. So I'm glad you're enjoying that, and doing the van life and whatnot. But do you still get a chance to enjoy RC any?
Yeah, so now I'm a little more, I don't take time off to go do it. Obviously, I only have so much vacation time, and I want to spend that, with my family and not do it at the RC track. So if you do see me at the RC track, it's more of on the local level. I'll probably stop by DNC and say hi to everybody and kind of hang out there.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as taking time to go to these events, probably not.
Yeah. Do you do you go to support Ryan as well, or is he pretty much learned how to do this on his own now?
Yeah, he's learned how to do it on his own. He's been self-supporting his own events, and that's what I wanted him to learn anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I don't want to be there supporting him, but if I'm doing all the work for him, he doesn't learn anything.
Right. So, do you want him to follow in your footsteps in the industry?
Ryan is so much. I know every parent probably says their kid's so much smarter than the next kid, but Ryan really is a bright kid. He's in AP classes at school and math, the math side of it, I would say he does have to work at it, but it does come easier than it did for me. Mm-hmm. And the amount of math he's doing, he's at the highest level in math, and he's only a junior right now. So, which he has one more year left in high school. So, I mean, he's pretty gifted as far as that goes. So I'd like to see him in some type of engineering role but at the end of the day, I'm going to try to support him in whatever he decides to do, and hopefully steer him in the right direction and guide where I can.
Okay. That's cool. Would you, I'm sure he's watched you and he's learned a lot from you as well, and how to maneuver throughout the industry as well. So, and I guess it's kind of hard being the son of you. Your name is, well known within the industry. So like everybody's going to say, yeah, that's Ryan Pavidis, Mark's son. So he's kind of got to break out and make his own way as well, too.
Right. Yeah. So, at first we started off with a similar paint scheme, like, oh, look, it's kind of similar, but we changed. But now he's kind of determined that he wants his own paint scheme and his own colors, and which is good. He's self-identifying himself, and he's also self-identifying himself at the racetrack with his own race results. So it's good.
Okay. What advice do you have for parents with kids in RC? There's a lot of kids, a lot of parents out there taking their kids out of school, homeschooling them, and making them do RC, hoping that they're going to be the next big thing. And you know how hard that is to be in RC. What advice do you have for
Yeah,
them?
I think it's a horrible decision. I think it's easy to look short term and see what's in front of you. But to have no work experience or education of how things are done, and just be the RC racer, then at some point you're gonna. I mean, RC racing doesn't last forever. I think you're starting to see some of these top pros. They're past their hump, and you know, they all have families now and getting bigger, and I personally don't like the idea of kids going racing full time or being homeschooled, but once you're 18, you can do whatever you want, I guess, right? Yeah.
But if
there's a lot of people out there that, like, successful racers that raced for a while and raced during college, and they were still fast. They might not have gone to all the big races, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, they did well, and they made a name for themselves. You know, Barry Pettit's won. Gosh, there's so many kids that were fast that go to school. You know.
Yeah, it is a lot of kids like that. Do you miss working in the industry at all?
Yeah, I mean, to say no, I'd be lying. I do miss it. Yeah, Ryan was doing the last few hours of practice there, and you know, I haven't seen a lot of the guys since I left today. You know, and run into them was cool, and you miss that. You know, I miss the competitive part of it for sure.
Yeah.
It's been a huge part of my life.
Would you if you was offered a job back in the industry, would you take it again?
It would have to be the right job, you know. But I'm pretty happy where I'm at. I mean, no job is absolutely perfect. They all have their issues, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's possible, you know. I wouldn't count it out, but
anything's possible, dude. I always say Dagani was really smart. He did it as a pro racer, but he also had a backup job at the same time outside of RC. So,
right.
You know, doing his clock repairs or whatever he does, which is pretty cool too.
Right.
All right. I know you're almost home, so. And the internet's getting a little bit wonky. But what about the state of RC? Having worked in the industry, you know I'm a big proponent of RCGP. What do you think about something like RCGP? Do you think it's needed in the industry?
I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I haven't really read too much about it. But, I mean, RC, to see these drones flying around and this and that, and they get airtime on ESPN and stuff like that, like, I get it because it's kind of a video game, like a gamer would get that sense of it. But, I mean, the one thing that RC, to me, RC car racing is way better than watching drones fly around. And then, you know, you can't even, I don't get the whole drone thing, but, I mean, I get it from the aspect that it's cool, like when you're watching it in the headset or whatever, but to watch them race, like, I don't get it, you know? RC racing, to me, if it was presented the right way, could bring so much more value, I think, than these drone races. But it needs to be presented in the right way. And, you know, one thing that we do right now, we have these week-long events that there's no way that any TV coverage is going to cover these events, you know? So these races need to be shorter, and they need to be streamlined and have no issues, and entry limits possibly if they want to do TV time or something like that. But I think if the right person comes in and it's presented the right way, then I think there's room for it to take off.
If you was working in the industry at the moment, Would you encourage your company to get involved in this, in RCGP?
Our company really doesn't have.
No, I mean in your company, like if you was working in the industry, say you was working for Proline, would you encourage them to get into involved with RCGP?
Well, like I said, I don't know that much about it, other than they're trying to bring it more mainstream. That's really all I know about it. I haven't really dove too far into it. I mean, it sounds like it's a good thing, but again, I don't know that much about it. So for me to voice my opinions on it would be, no value.
Well, I do appreciate this, Mark, but we have just 2 more segments to do, and I have a segment that's actually I have to do my introduction for it because it's actually a sponsored segment, and it's 10 questions in 10 seconds. I'm basically ask you 10 questions. You have to answer off the top of your head. So I'll just do my introduction, and after that, I have a few questions that some guys on Facebook have asked on our No Name RC podcast page. So I'm gonna do my introduction for this, and then I'm gonna start on the questions. So, Hey guys, we got Mark Pavidis here, and this is the FastRaceShop.com 10 question, 10 second segment. Please go to FastRaceShop.com, type in Lefty 2019, and you get 10% off your order. You guys know who Fast Race Shop is because I've been telling you all this time. They got awesome trinkets and bits for your cars to bling your car to make it look good. Great shock caps and awesome honeycombed bladders. So you ready for this, Mark?
Yep.
Okay, question 1. Motocross, cycling.
Only one more. It's only one answer, right? One
yeah.
answer.
Yeah. Or, one of quick answers. You can do it as.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Yeah.
I know that I see from Facebook that you're avid into motocross, cycling, and RC. Which 2 of these would you remove? If you had to remove 2, which would they be from your life?
Remove 2?
Yeah, if you only had to stick with one of those three hobbies, what would you stick with?
I would probably keep cycling and remove motocross and RC. The reason is cycling is just a lot more of a healthier sport.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Number 2, if you could change one thing in RC right now, what would it be?
Get rid of the million sponsored people.
Okay. Saxton, Degani, Bradley, or Courts, which one will take you out for the win?
Oh, it's a no-brainer. And if anyone answers this with a different name, they should be shot. Courts.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody says Saxton used to take guys out.
Oh, no. Courts.
Okay.
Courts.
All right. So I know you don't know too much about RCGP, but basically it's like 2-man teams. So if you had an RC company and you was going to enter a team in RCGP, what 2 drivers, past or present, would they be? Which 2 drivers would you put in there?
I would say an RCGP just for 8 scale?
Yeah, it's just rate scale and it's just a 2-man team.
I'm going to go with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And can I pick myself?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Myself and let's see. Yeah, I'll go with Saxton. I'll pick Saxton.
All right, cool. Number 5, if you did not live in America, where would you be living?
Oh my gosh. Why are these questions so hard?
Mexico. Yes, I like Modelo's.
There's too many good choices.
Modelo's and tacos, you can't go wrong with that.
Exactly, and I love Mexican food. So.
Yeah. Number 6, should gas truck come back?
No.
Okay. Number 7, What class of RC would you like to see Ryan focus on?
Eight scale.
Okay, and number 8. Name one RC track you wish still existed.
Hot tracks.
Number 9. Who is the best RC driver ever that never really made it?
When you say made it,
Like became a professional and won and basically done what you guys done. There's lots of guys that have had talent, but there's lots of guys that haven't fulfilled that talent. Who was the most talented guy that never made it?
I would say, I mean, not that this person was, I mean, granted, he was super talented, but I think he really worked hard. It would have to be Chad Bradley.
Yeah.
He worked really hard. He did a lot of testing and practicing, and he just never got that big win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I could say that. I would agree with that. And number 10, the best 8-scale car you've ever had. You've ever raced.
Yeah, Kyosho.
Really? Which one?
Well, I mean, of course, my world's car. I mean, you go back to then, and I mean, without that car, I can't win the world. So that has to be the best car.
Okay. Now, I have a few questions from some of our followers on our Facebook page. So I'm going to just go through them really quick. So I know you got to get home. You want to relax. Okay. Aaron Klein says, your biggest rival of all time.
Brian Kinwald.
Okay. Justin Mann says, ask me to ask you about blowing chunks in my Rhino.
Oh, that was his fault. No, he took me on a ride Thanksgiving when we were at the desert, and I had too much to drink, and he finished me off.
Mick Craddock asks about skateboarding at his house. Oh God, that probably don't sound too good. Like it happened.
So I went over to England to do AK did a weekend event in England where AK had a control tire. It was just more of a low key, but a lot of top racers went. They used a control tire for 8 scale. And then the following, after that event was over, I spent a week and I traveled to a couple different tracks, working on carpet and AstroTurf tires for AK. And during that time I was there, I was staying with Mick and Michelle at their house, and they tried to poison me one night drinking. And they did a good job. And then I tried to ride a skateboard down their stairs in the backyard.
Oh, that couldn't have ended too good. You must have felt that in the morning.
No. Yeah, my head hurt.
Yeah. Patrick Matthew Dillon Jr. Do you still have your world's winning car hanging on a wall or in a trophy case? He actually has 2 questions. And he goes, was the magnesium head OS motor your favorite motor of all time?
The engine was, but not the magnesium head.
Okay. S.J. Shatler, who's a JQ guy over in the UK, he says, if you was going to spend your own money on a car, what would you buy right now?
On a real car?
No, on an 8-scale car.
No, RC car.
Yeah.
On an 8-scale car, I'd say the Associated car.
Yeah.
You know, I built it. Quality is really good. The ease of maintenance is really nice. Mm-hmm. And those are all things that you need to consider when you purchase a car. So I think Associated did a really good job on their 8-scale car.
Yeah. Quick access diffs and whatnot. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Last question. Ken Spencer, do pros modify their engines or do they run them straight out of the box? I'm guessing he's asking if there are modified engines for pro guys.
No, I mean, the stuff that we get, the sponsored guys get from OS, my stuff came directly from Japan. Mm-hmm. And it didn't even come broke in. They send you pretty much the same stuff they're sending everyone else. Just you're breaking it in maybe different than the next guy. So
yeah,
it's all stuff you can get off the shelf.
Cool. Well, man, I appreciate your time. Are you gonna get down and watch Ryan race live this weekend?
Yeah, I'm gonna get down there on Sunday and cheer him on, and hopefully he can make it into the final. There's a lot of fast guys in that open class, but that's how you get faster.
Yeah, for sure. He's putting in the work. Too bad him and Max can't have another rematch this year from DNC. They actually it was so funny watching them. Like, they just finished racing and they were like playing around in the pits afterwards. Like, I was like, so crazy. I wish we could all be kids again like that, So
yeah.
But thank you for your time, bud. It was actually very interesting to talk to you. I've never talked to you before. I'm glad we got to hear your side of the AKA debacle. I guess I'll call that. And you have a good weekend, and I wish Ryan really good luck at Reedy this weekend.
Yeah, Keenan, I really appreciate you allowing me to come on your show and go over the different subjects and bring back a lot of these memories, both good and bad.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, man. Truly.
Good.
Okay, well, I'll probably see you at DNC, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'll stop by and I'll say hi.
All right. Have a good evening.
Maybe I'll drive a van, one of our $200,000 vans out there.
That would be cool. I would. It probably need some heating or air conditioning at some point, So.
Yeah, it's got it.
I gotta drive the janky JQ van from the from the East Coast to California in a couple of weeks, so that's gonna be fun.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man.
All right. Well, you have a good night.
All right. Thank you for your time, and have a good weekend.
All right, Keenan.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Welcome to the JQ Racing Rant segment of the podcast, and unfortunately, we have Captain Asshole himself, JQ, with us again. And what's up, JQ? How are you?
What's up? Nothing special.
How's things going there in the Philippines? It's probably 9:44 p.m. on a Sunday night there right now. We're recording this.
It's okay. I've been designing all day, listening to karaoke night outside.
Okay. Have you ate any balut lately?
No balut. No.
Red Horse? Had any Red Horse?
No Red Horse either. I've had some brew kettle, it's called.
Hey, isn't that Red Horse though super strong?
Yeah, it's strong. It's the strong one.
Yeah, I had some of that when I was in Abu Dhabi, man. I like, because when I was in Abu Dhabi, you couldn't just go into liquor shops and buy. You had to have a license to go buy alcohol. So we used to have this Indian guy that used to come sell it out of the back of his car. So he would come to we lived in a workers' village. So you would go down. It was honestly I thought I was buying drugs. Like I would go down there, give him, I would buy 5 cans of beer and give him $20 or something like that. I think it was because, he has to make his money. He'll put it in a black bag and it's all secretive. And you go up to your room, put it in the fridge. And it was crazy, dude. Insane. Honestly. Like I was buying cocaine or crack or something. I was just buying some beer. So
We're kind of in those countries.
Yeah.
It's illegal and stuff. So.
Well, you can go to the bars and drink. That's not a problem. But to actually buy alcohol, they have at liquor shops, you have to have a license. So yeah. But anyway, we had a great interview with Mark Pavidis. The quality was a bit because he was driving home, I believe, from work. So
well, maybe the content is key.
Yeah, I think the content was great. He actually opened up quite a bit about his departure from AKA, and he did say one thing. He said he would work in RC again if the right opportunity came up. So
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do like to say that RC, you may leave RC, but it never leaves you.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah, so our rant this weekend will be. No, you can't rant again, but you can join me with this rant and give me your opinion.
One day I'll get to.
One day you get to rant. You do enough of that online, Jesus. Classes and sponsorship in 8 scale. There is a little bit of Facebook jousting I was involved in it a little bit over the weekend after SIC. Some people were like, I guess this is what happens when JQ Racing starts to do good. People find
Let
out.
me guess. People were accused of sandbagging.
Yes, sandbagging or not sandbagging. Why should open drivers have chassis sponsors? Shouldn't they be running in pro? And the same was for sportsmen. So I kind of look at this like this. I kind of look at this subject. Having a chassis sponsor doesn't equate to your quality of drive or your ability and skill level of driving. There's lots of people nowadays in the hobby. Sponsorship is nothing. It's actually probably abnormal to not be sponsored, or people like to say contract customer, but I think I'd like to call it sponsorship, because if you're getting some type of deal or percentage off a product, that's some form of sponsorship. I don't care what anybody says. But I don't know. Like, first of all, I'm not really big. Okay, I know classes is an American thing. I know in Europe there's really not much classes. I think open class is super competitive at these races. These guys are really fast. They're like not fast enough to be in the pro class, and they're way too fast to be in the sportsman class. So open is, I have no issue with that. I have no issue with 40 plus. Sportsman's kind of, I definitely think there's some sandbagging going on in sportsman. But I don't think having a chassis sponsor should dictate whether you drive sportsman or not. I know they do this because it's probably one of the easiest way to get people, like, to try and stop sandbagging, but it actually doesn't stop sandbagging. What stops sandbagging is saying, okay, well, if this guy is just it's just too much faster than anybody, let's bump him up to open, you know? So, I don't know. What do you think on this? Because people were going back and forth on this after SIC this weekend.
Well, I'm not a big fan of all the different classes. I think everyone knows that. I think for the big races, there should only be maximum 2 classes. There should be the pro class and then an open. That's it.
No 40 plus? I think 40 plus is good to have as well.
I think even that should just be like an exhibition final or something like that. No separate qualifying for 40 plus. That's a waste.
Well, how about if...
It's a waste of time for everyone. The problem with all the classes is you spend so much time at the track and you get so little track time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you'd only have 2 classes, then you still have a separation of the serious pro guys and then the guys who just have this as a hobby and want to also race for the win. But it's clearly their hobby and they aren't trying to be the best in the world. So I think they should have a class for themselves too. So I can accept having a pro class and an open class. Then anything else is just, an exhibition final for oldies or kids or something like that. But I don't think they should have a separate class.
So you think they should kind of do it like the Worlds do? They like they take their overall qualifying and then do a final for the top 15. Like,
yeah, that saves a lot of time, and then maybe the pro class and the open class can have one more qualifier each day, or longer mains or something like that. So
I think
or one day less at the race.
Yeah, I think the issue with that is a lot of people do sign up for multiple classes to get track time at these bigger races, because the entry level, the amount of entries is so big. So, like, when you got 500-600 entries, not people, entries, because you got sportsmen, you got e-truggy, you got short course, you got sportsman nitro buggy, sportsman e-buggy, sportsman truggy, open, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, but I think why not rather than raise the entry fee and then just have everyone race more in the class that they pick?
Well,
so do you see what I mean? Instead of having to pay for 2 entries and race 2 different races essentially to get track time, why not just give each class enough track time?
Well, because the whole thing is getting entries. Unlike I know where you're going with this, like how Neo.
Well, yeah, but then just instead of having $100 entry fee, make it $200 if people are already paying that because they're racing more classes.
I totally agree with that, and actually, it's kind of like how Neo used to do it, or like you would pay $200, I think it was roughly, it's probably a little bit less than that. I can't remember. But at Neo, you got like, I believe, 5 different practice sessions of 5 to 10 minutes. You got qualifier, like long qualifiers, and you got 20-minute mains. The issue is that people want to run multiple classes like truggy and e-buggy and nitro buggy and e-truggy and short course. So I get that too.
Yeah, but then those are also broken down into sportsman,
Not
expert,
really. Not really.
open, pro, all this and that.
Just sportsman is broken down into
40 plus.
40 plus is like e-truggy is one class. And short course is one class at SIC. I understand why it happens, but my thing is that's not going to change. So I'm not really worried about that. My point is more about people talking about chassis sponsors dictating, or sponsors, period. What makes a chassis sponsor more valuable than a tire or engine sponsor, like, or whatever? I mean, so you can have a tire sponsor in sportsman, but you can't have a chassis sponsor. Just because.
So what's the rule? If you have a sponsor, then you can't run sportsman.
Yeah, apparently it's like the unwritten rule. If you have zero chassis sponsor in sportsman, 1 to 99% in open, and 100% and above in pro. But
then no one in RC would be running sportsman, basically.
pretty much, because everybody's getting some kind of deal, man. And one person got so upset, like this one guy. I remember he's like, why would a company promote open drivers doing well at a race? If they're running open, if they're getting any type of chassis sponsor, they should be running pro. I'm like, dude, this isn't pro at your local track where you're a pro. Like, this is SIC is actually a really big race. Like, okay, it didn't have a lot of professional drivers. Like, it just had Lutz and Tebo and Cole Ogden, but it had all the fast guys from the East Coast, the Evan Vales, the Blake Pickett's, and whatnot. And it's still like pro there is fast, and open there is fast. So why wouldn't it?
What classes did they have at SIC?
They had sportsman, open, pro, nitro buggy, e-buggy.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they had e-truggy.
Yeah. I just wanted to know the levels.
But I was trying to tell the guy. I said, why wouldn't a company be proud of anybody who gets on a podium that's driving their cars? That's kind of like obviously we give people discounts, and we want them to go out there and get results. So, I mean, not everybody's going to get results. So if somebody gets result with your chassis, of course you're going to promote it, whether it's sportsman, whether it's open, whether it's pro, why not? And that's also showing the person that's doing the work, the driver, that you appreciate what they're doing as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way I see it's like this. So at the big races, you should only have the 2 classes, so pro and open. Forget about sportsman. On a club racing or like regional level, then yeah, okay, if you insist, then have pro, open, and sportsman. But even there, I wouldn't do 3 because the pros aren't going to be there, right? Mm-hmm. On a local level, it's like the open class with 1 or 2 pros thrown in. Even there, you could have 2 classes, basically, the kind of pro class, open class, whatever, and then a sportsman class. And then the idea is that on the local level, you kind of encourage new people to join, and they run the kind of lower class. Mm-hmm. And then you have the upper class for the big race open drivers and pros that race together. Mm-hmm. And there would I don't think sponsorship necessarily dictates who races where, because like you said, it's not, sponsorships aren't tied to skill level. You might get sponsored because your brother's a good driver and the company just decided, like, you know what, it's meaningless sponsoring just one of you. We're going to sponsor both of you. Mm-hmm. And you are a beginner yourself, but you're sponsored, or you might get sponsored because you're an influential person in the region, but you're a terrible driver. Mm-hmm. So skill level doesn't go hand in hand with sponsorship. I think the only reasonable way to do that is to have some sort of ranking system, which not necessarily even points or anything like that. Just say, like, after you've won 5 sportsman races or 3 or whatever, then you can't run sportsman anymore. Just something like that.
I believe the race time rules are once you win in one of those classes, you cannot run that class again. So if you win sportsman nitro buggy, you can't run it again next year when you come to that race. So I think that's pretty good. Go on.
I just think people
get a little bit confused between these classes as well when they look at them. Like you go to local races and they'll have Sportsman Open and Pro, or probably Open and Pro. Like, oh, he's a pro, and this is what it comes. This is my one of my pet peeves about RC, when people think that the local guy is a pro. And I try to tell people all the time, a pro to me is people that compete against other professionals that get paid. Yes, there are guys who I would consider like semi-pro who may not be getting paid. They get free product. They probably get some travel money. They're fast. They can probably make a final at one of these races. But there's a difference between pro level at your local club, where one guy might be dominating. That guy at that pro level is probably a really fast open guy at one of these bigger races. And here's the thing. And then, while I really enjoy all the race time entertainment races, I think they're awesome. I think PMB's their biggest one, where they have the most turnout. Even open at there compared to open at DNC is different. You know, when you go to DNC and you race expert, it's called. Expert is on a whole different level, like this speed, because a lot of people, what I experienced last year, not saying that the open guys aren't fast at PMB, but it comes down to the East versus West Coast thing that's been going on for a long time. It just seems that the West Coast guys seem to be faster, obviously, on the West Coast. But I just think people don't get a real grasp of what speed is. You have to go to these bigger races. When you go to these bigger races, you see these faster guys. And then when you go to a race like DNC or Nationals, then you see real speed. You know, then you see there's no classes. Like, that's where you stack up, especially at the Nationals. Like, you know where you stack up when you go there. So I think people just have to, like, understand, just because you run pro at your local track doesn't mean you're a pro at these bigger races, man. You know, there's a big difference, man. It's like a big fish in a small pond that goes to a bigger pond with bigger fish, you know? So it's insane.
And I think with the two classes, so let's say you have the pro class and open class, I don't see a reason why someone wouldn't be allowed to run open if it's just their hobby. So what I'm trying to say is, let's say this was just my hobby. I paid for my stuff. Yeah, I had a sponsor, 50%, 75% off, whatever. But I did it as a hobby, and my goal wasn't to beat the best. My goal wasn't to go to the Worlds and win or make the main or anything. It was just to have fun, you know, race a few big races a year, club race. That's all I do. Well, in that scenario, then it would be a lot more fun to go to DNC, race open, make the main, and try and win the open class, instead of going and racing pro and finishing in the B main or something like that. So if RC is my hobby and I just want to maximize the fun I can have, and I'm not seriously trying to beat Mayfield out there, then why should I be forced to run the pro class? I can see that argument too. Mm-hmm. I think the only class that people should be forced out of is the sportsman class, if there's such a thing. So if people are competing with beginners and kids who are coming into the sport, and we don't yet know where they will end up. Is it going to be just a hobby? Are they one day going to be pros? Those people should have their own kind of entry-level class, and then they progress out of that. But then if they progress to open and stay there, or if they progress from open to pro, that's up to them and their goals and what they're trying to do with their RC racing.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. And I think 99% of the people out there are doing it for hobbies. There's that 1% that are professionals. Then you have the people that think they're going to be professionals. So if they want to go to pro and run pro, that's their choice, man. If they want, that's how they want to test themselves. I give them all the credit for that too. But for me, I don't want to see over 40 go away, because I'm over 40 and that's the only class I want to race. So, and I think it's great. And over 40 is actually one of the biggest, fastest growing classes in RC, because the over 40 guys have the disposable income to pay for RC, you know? And it's some fast dudes there, man. I mean, over 40 at DNC is going to be super competitive. Super competitive.
Yeah, everyone's getting old.
Yeah.
Not enough new kids.
Yeah, not long for you. You'll be running that class too.
Yeah, another 5 years.
No, four. Let's get it right.
It's 5 years. It's 5 years.
You go 36 this year, man. Just stop it.
Yeah, it's still 5 years.
It's still 4 years.
I wish Joey still had the Legends class.
Yeah, but there was only 7 people in it last year, so.
It's just a money grab, but it's extra track time.
Hey, and I see that JQ Racing is a sponsor of DNC.
Well, technically, it's hashtag JQ Takeover is a sponsor of DNC.
Oh God.
Title sponsor, you know.
Hey,
So I just want to hear them. I just want to hear Jimmy say that on the microphone every day.
Oh Lord, have mercy. I don't know. My trip to DNC is just like the stress level for my trip to DNC has just been raised. Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome.
Hey, leave it to you, man, to give me more gray hair. Hey, but
So did we have a conclusion of this class thing?
My conclusion is, I think you should run where your skill level dictates. And if you think you should be a sportsman and you're not absolutely dominating and winning in sportsman, stay there until you do, then move out. If you don't want to move out of open, I get that, because open is super competitive.
Yeah, and just have 2 classes. Just keep it simple.
It's never going to be 2 classes.
I mean,
Joseph,
skill level classes.
It's never going to be 2 classes. So
it could easily be just open and pro. That's it.
It's never going to be. So let's just stop it. Okay?
Yes, it can be.
Oh, God. Jesus.
It is in most countries.
Well,
actually, probably most countries is just 1 class.
No, this is true.
Some they have 2. Like France, they have 2. I believe Italy, they have 2.
I think they have like a whole like a A and B class. That's what they're called. Like a Euro, like they have the Euro Bs and the Euro As. Yeah. I think it's I actually
just
think
leave it at that. No need for sportsman and novice and expert and open and pro and.
I actually think
ridiculous.
I think if they actually done a Nationals B like they did in Europe, that would be great too. So then both races can be smaller. But then again, they need the entries. That's what that's the whole thing, man. It's like
all about the entries.
It's a catch-22, man. Like, yes, the races will be better with less entries, and then the fast guys can go to like the really fast guys can go to the National A like they do in Europe. And then the like I would say the open guys who are fast, they can go and be like National B champion, you know?
Yeah. Well, in RCGP, we kind of made it so the pro class is the RCGP class and open class is RC2. Mm-hmm. And we were thinking long and hard how to limit who can attend the RC2 class.
Right.
And what we ended up with was if you are paid to race RC cars, then you can't race the RC2. Okay. Or if you have made the world's A main or Euro's A main or Raw National A main within the last 5 years in 8 scale, nitro off-road, then you can't race the RC2 class.
I think it's going to be great. We'll talk about it on a different podcast. But I also want to say, before we close, I'd like to say congratulations to our drivers that went to SIC. We had a really great weekend there. Trent Walker done really well. Ryan Millington done well. He like bumped from the C to the A main and E-buggy. I don't know why. Like, I'm on that guy to run nitro. He just won't run nitro. Jeff done really well. He actually
after I sent him the setup.
Yeah, he you guys helped him out. I was watching the setup and all, like UMX helping him out, and most guys told me that were there said his car was the best. He just kept making mistakes. But Trent drove really consistent, man. He what did he get? Like, he got a top 3. He came nitro, he came second, and E-buggy he came second. So that's great because Trent made his debut at this race last year, and I think he broke while in second, chasing down first. So it's really good to see. I've watched Trent over the last year. He's driving very mature now. He's definitely gotten better. He's more consistent. Now he can start pushing to get that little bit of extra speed that he needs to get to that next level. But I think he's progressed really good over the year, and he's stuck it out with JQ Racing. Him and his dad have done a really good job. They've been practicing. They've been putting in the work. And that's what happens when you do that stuff. Like, it pays off, you know?
Yeah, all I know is I had to pay some contingency money.
Yes, you did. You're going to have to pay me contingency money here soon, too.
What's that for?
And Cody Walker. Cody Walker, who was running Sportsman at the time, he moved up to Open. And he came third. He bumped out of the B in Adelanto, which I think was one badass track, even though it had a lot of 180s. It was like pure supercross, big jumps, big berm at the end. I really enjoyed that track, like watching it. Some big ass jumps. He came third after bumping out of the B, so you had to pay him too.
Yeah, it was good.
That was a good weekend for us, and I'm super happy with everybody that went. All the guys that went to SIC. We actually had about 10 guys that went there. So it's pretty cool, man. Last year we only had 2. That's pretty amazing.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah, well, anyway, before just want to say thank you to everybody for listening to this podcast and listening to Joseph drone on about 2 classes. It could have been worse. He could have been talking about CTOs.
We have to have one of those discussions one day.
Yeah, well, really,
the rant has to be about track cutting.
No, I actually been watching you. I've been watching you.
Favorable marshalling.
You've been doing some really good analyses of the Reedy race so far. So maybe next week we can talk about that a little bit because you've been pretty good. Like you actually should be a play-by-play analysis. Like
I was saying that I was actually after I posted one of those things, I actually told Kay, you know what? I should just quit all of this and just be in the media business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you to everybody. I'm not gonna drone on anymore.
Best quote from Reedy. Best quote from Reedy. You're the biggest piece of shit.
Who said that?
I'm not gonna say who said that to who, but that's the best quote I've heard from Reedy so far. You're the biggest piece of shit.
Hey, dude, when that guy, that spectator turn marshaled that car, oh my God! I don't know if it was Gord or you heard was. I was like, what the hell?
Oh yeah, that was early on.
Yeah, that was
coming into the finish.
Yeah,
I remember that.
But
must have been some drama.
Yeah, I believe it was. I believe it was related with Ty Tessman. So.
Well, I can say Ty Tessman definitely didn't say that.
No, I know, but no, I'm not talking.
Just to be clear.
Okay, well, you're probably going to get blamed for that anyway. So let's just leave it at that. You weren't even there, and someone's going to blame you. So.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. That's episode 12 in the books. Really appreciate it. We got some cool giveaways. We're going to give away the body this week for sure. You see that awesome skateboard deck that we got that my buddy Clint from Texas done for us? That's going to be now. That's probably not going to be given away till after DNC. We got to get some more patrons, and then that's a nice piece of swag that we're going to give away. We got a couple of small little things coming, some car stands with No Name RC podcasts on them that we're going to do giveaways with, and we just greatly appreciate it, man. The Facebook page is at 1,200 likes. Let's get that up to 1,500 by the end of DNC or more, and then we can do and get some more patrons because without the patrons we can't do this. Just for $1 a day helps us out, man. Just $1 a day,
$1 a month is good.
$1 a month, sorry, not $1 a day. $1 a month, a cup of coffee a month at patreon.com/thequaygrain. Every little bit helps. What else was it? Yeah, well, I'll be on the road here soon, so I'm going to be trying to do some podcasts live. Maybe not live, but like actually in studio from DNC and stuff. So we'll see what happens. Should be good. But thank you, everybody. And Joseph, would you like to say anything to anybody?
No, I'm done. I'm all good.
Yeah. You know what you can do?
What's that?
You can just go beep yourself. Check you later.
Go fuck yourself.
Anyway, guys, thanks a lot. And this is Lefty out. Have a good weekend.
Thank you for listening to the No Name RC podcast. Please tune in next time for more fresh RC content. And if you can, please also support us on patreon.com/thequaygrain. We will greatly appreciate it. And don't forget, Nitro is the glory.